This is Kerrigan and Company. Did you know that more than 90% of cyber attacks can be prevented? Focus Technology helps organizations create a cybersecurity framework to minimize your risk of being attacked. Let Focus Technology's certified team conduct an assessment to determine where the gaps are in your organization, no matter how big or small your company is. Utilizing the industry's best tools, Focus Technology security operations team will monitor and stop bad actors before it's too late. Contact Focus Technology today at focustsi.com and secure your company's most valuable assets. That's focustsi.com. A&B Burger in Beverly and A&B Kitchen and Bar in Boston are redefining guest expectations of a casual restaurant. Both A&B restaurant locations are focused on hospitality, creative menus, and delicious food and drinks. Now, I've been to both restaurants many times and loved everything I've tried. Get to A&B Burger on Cabot Street in Beverly or head across the street from our studio at the TD Garden to A&B Kitchen and Bar in Boston today and experience the A&B difference yourself. I promise you're going to love it. Welcome, everybody, to Kerrigan and Company. It's presented by A&B Burger, and I'm your host, Kim Kerrigan. Who's keeping me company this week? Well, it's a guy that kept me company in the mornings for a long time. I'm sleeping in now, but he's not. This is Kerrigan and Company.
Kerrigan and Company is here for you. Yes, Kerrigan and Company is here for you.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Kerrigan and Company, brought to you by A&B Burger. So glad you could be with us, and I am so excited about the guy who's keeping me company today. It's a guy I've known for quite some time. Welcoming Doug Meehan. Hey,
Kim, thank you so much for having me. This is unbelievable.
You know, I just said I've known you for such a long time, but I totally forgot. Now, just take you back a little bit, okay? Obviously, we had our Fox 25 days together.
Yeah.
But I just recently, and I know you saw it too,
Promo?
a promo from Channel 7, and you were the photog in it.
Yeah.
I
That was
totally
right
forgot.
after, in between Providence and Hartford reporting, but it was also, I call it that was my second tour of duty at Channel 7, whereas before I was a photog there Monday through Friday and a one-man band at New England Cable News.
I didn't even know you did that.
Yeah, 7 days a week.
I want to tell everybody who's watching and listening, you've never met anybody who has done more in their life than Doug Meehan. I mean, I'm not kidding you. I
don't know if that's good or bad. I mean,
well, no, it's good. It's good. You were like a ferry guy.
Ferry boat captain. Yeah. Make sure you finish that. Make sure you finish that, will you? Ferry boat captain. Just so you.
Okay, sorry about that.
That's all right.
Maybe I had my story confused.
All right. We had to clarify for that for the folks at home. Yeah. That was running the boat between Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard for Highline.
Yeah. Made you a Nantucket guy.
It did. You always, whatever island is your first is the one you stay connected to.
Yeah.
And I was a deckhand on the Brant Point in 1982, and that was my route 2 days a week, and I fell in love with Nantucket.
Isn't that unbelievable? Yeah, but you know, I had forgotten, Doug, that you've worked outside the market quite a bit. I mean, obviously, you're from here. You're
in
born
Cape
and
Cod.
raised. And Yarmouth, right?
I did.
Yeah.
MTY, class of 82, go Dolphins.
There you go. I think that is an automatic.
Yeah,
you know, that that goes. That's the tag.
Go Dolphins. Yeah.
And then you went away. You went to Texas twice, I think, right?
I did. I went to, if you want the route, it was Providence, Hartford, Austin, Texas, Tampa, Florida, Dallas, Texas, 2 stops at TV stations in Dallas, then back to Boston, and then out to Phoenix, and then back to Boston. So it's all about staying employed, really.
Well,
and
listen,
it's
I know.
a fickle business.
Right.
I mean, we both know that. And some things are out of your control, and you just keep hanging in there, and you just, by the way, yes, I did radio too here in Boston.
Yeah, you sure did. Yeah.
So.
I followed you right in.
Right.
You did it, and I did it there at that same exact
and it was
radio
after that,
station.
and it was just out to Phoenix from there. So I knew I had to get back into television, and now here I am at Channel 5 and loving it.
Good.
Absolutely loving it.
Yeah. Well,
Found
we
a
all
great
love
home.
you there. You found the perfect spot for yourself.
Well, we have
I
such
think.
a great team, a great group. It's such a legendary and iconic station.
Yeah.
And it's just with Antoinette and Cindy and Katie and the whole team. It's just awesome.
It's so good. I'm so glad.
Thank you.
So I think a lot of people, one of the things I always like to do here on the podcast is just talk about people and about some of the things that they do that maybe people don't know.
Oh.
And I know that you've talked about it some on the air, but, the photography thing is a big deal for you now.
It's really been a fun hobby. Being out on the streets reporting in the early morning hours, I would always be on scenes or watch sunrises, and I always had the phone with me.
Sure.
But I said, there has to be a better way of doing this. I took it in college, and so I was in the dark room and the changing of the film in the dark room, and now we have Lightroom, and it makes it so much easier for people to be able to go out, and you can learn everything on YouTube. And I found that I get great enjoyment out of it.
Yeah.
I like creating art, if you will, and that's just my way of doing art.
You've got a great eye. I mean, you really do.
Well.
And I mean, it's not surprising to me because of just how we started this whole thing, this conversation about the fact that you were a photog for a while. You had an eye then. But now, this is really, really good, Doug.
Well, thanks. I think it's just a matter of getting out there and working on the craft.
Yeah.
I mean, really, that's what it is. And people go, I'd like to be able to take pictures like that. And I go, well, you can. You just,
I don't
you
know.
got to get out there and you got to kind of see and find the things that you like. Getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning every day allows me the fact that I can,
Yes, you can.
set the alarm clock for 4 and feel like I slept in.
Right.
And
right.
so I get
On
up.
Saturday, you get up,
set
you're
a
out there by then.
Yeah, get out before the sunrise. And there's nothing better. I mean, I find it to be such an amazing place when you're by yourself and the sun's coming up and you're seeing things that people don't get to see unless they are early risers.
Sure.
And just putting it out there to share with the world. And I just have fun creating it. So.
Well, it's terrific. It's really good stuff. And if you haven't seen it, go to Doug's. I think you have an Instagram.
I do, Doug
page,
Meehan
right?
Photography.
Yeah. Be sure you check it out because he's really, really
thank you.
good.
Too kind.
There's no two ways about that.
kind.
So tell me what's new with you. You're a guy who is a year out of having kind of a tough time.
Yeah, knock on wood, I guess I can consider myself a cancer survivor.
Yeah.
Never thought I'd have to say something like that.
Dougie, I never in my life thought that you would say that.
No, I don't think anybody ever does,
No,
to be
of course
honest with
not.
you,
Right,
sure.
right.
But I didn't feel sick. Some people that get cancer, sadly, are stricken so terribly so.
Yeah.
And with prostate cancer, that's what I was diagnosed with several years ago, just before the pandemic. And when the pandemic hit, we went on active surveillance, is what they called it, because it was so early on. It's such a slow-growing cancer.
And thank God, right? Because
Right.
you
Yeah.
didn't want to be in that hospital
No.
then or be treated then.
And then PSA levels and biopsies got us to a point where they said, okay, now you have to do something. And I met some incredible doctors and nurses at Daneshvar and the Brigham. Dr. D. Carvalho, he did my surgery, and March 30th will be 1 year. We're
Yeah.
cancer-free, and it's a blessing. I've been able to share the story because I felt it was important because not enough guys want to talk about
Right.
men's health, and this is purely a men's health issue.
Yes, it is.
You start dealing with the plumbing, guys don't want to talk about it.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so, sadly, not enough guys are talking about it, but I found that when I did publicly address it through Channel 5, that they were so gracious to allow me to do that, the emails started coming in, and the calls started coming in, and wives were saying, my husband has had his head stuck in the sand over this issue, and he doesn't want to do anything. I went to, not to get too sad here, but I went to my uncle's wake, and the funeral director came up to me and said, Doug, thank you so much for sharing your story. He said, myself and my 2 brothers also had prostate cancer. Myself and my older brother decided to do surgery. The middle brother said, I can handle it. It's no big deal. He's no longer with us. So guys, get checked, get that PSA checked, keep an eye on it out there. And
Doug, my dad's in his early 80s, and my dad, about 5 years ago, doctor said to him, they were watching his levels, and the doctor said to him, Frank, if you're lucky enough to live long enough, as a man, you're probably going to have prostate cancer.
That's right.
It's just
Seven
it's
out
part
of 7 out of 10.
There you go.
7 out of 10.
So the idea that men put their head in the sand about it doesn't sound very smart to me, because your chances of getting it are great.
Yes, and it's such a treatable cancer.
right,
That's the
right,
other
right.
thing. Now, it's not without its issues. I mean, there are significant things that happen to you as a result.
Of course.
And your life does change.
Of course.
But the key here is that your life goes on.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't do something, sadly, it can make all the difference in the world. I never felt sick, and I told you the story. I went into the hospital feeling fine. I came out of the hospital wrecked.
Like you'd been hit by a Mack truck, right?
But here we are today,
Yeah.
a year later, and, I feel great.
Yeah.
And life is back to normal.
Well, you
so
look
I'm blessed.
terrific, and I'm
Thank you.
so glad that
Thank
you. I'm so glad that you've used the platform that you have to help other people. I mean, some people won't do that. You have a privacy issue, and I get that.
Look at
but-
Lloyd Austin.
Yeah, well, that's right.
He didn't even want to tell the president.
Right. He did not.
No.
Right. Exactly. So
Yeah.
you've done that, and that has been a
Well,
terrific thing.
Thank you.
So, do you think about being in that helicopter anymore?
Yes
How
and
often
no.
do people
Yes and
come
no.
up to you and ask about
They
that?
still think I'm the
Oh,
helicopter guy.
I bet they do.
Absolutely, they do. I go, the hair got gray, so I had to put on a tie, and they put me on the desk. It was the best office view in the city every day.
man.
But, as you know, they lost that helicopter.
Yes, I know they did.
They lost that
which is
helicopter on the West Coast.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
It's unbelievable. I'll never forget when I heard that, and I literally rolled backward to listen again, and I thought, "You've got to be kidding me."
I saw the tail
You've gotta
number,
be
and I
kidding
got
me.
sick to my stomach.
Oh, I bet you
Yeah.
did. Yeah, that helicopter, a station out west was using it, which is what happens frequently. These choppers
Sell 'em
move
and-
around,
yeah.
and that chopper went down.
Killed 3 people. Yeah.
Absolutely
Sadly.
horrific. I want to share with everybody, though, a quick story that I will never forget when I first heard it because I thought it misunderstood you.
Oh, boy.
So you went out of Norwood Airport.
Yes.
This is back when we were on Fox, and you'd go every morning. And you'd park and you'd get in the chopper and you'd be
yeah, I
up
know
there
where
for
you're
the
going,
2.5 or 3 hours
know
or
where you're
whatever it
going.
was.
Yes.
And it was in the middle of the winter.
I
and
hate
you
the winter. I hate the cold.
Just you tell your story.
No,
I
go
know,
ahead. Go ahead. I'm just trying to set it up. Because
And Doug comes back, and somebody makes some comment about it being so darn cold and having to go back and forth in the chopper and in his car. And he said, "Well, I don't turn my car off when I get to the airport. I
Norwood
let
Airport-
it run."
Norwood Airport is freezing. It's one of the coldest spots. It's like down in a little thing. So we're flying around, and I'm like, I'm just going to keep that motor running. I know it's probably not environmentally sound.
You think?
Well, I mean,
So he'd go up at 4:30 in the morning and come down at 9 or 9:30, and
Listen,
the car would have been running the entire time.
it was so warm.
It was
So warm. I'd
bet
climb
it
into that
was.
car because there's nothing worse, getting out there and sitting in the
Well,
car.
it's
and
got to be
waiting.
cold in the chopper.
No, we had heat.
Oh, good.
We didn't have air conditioning.
Oh,
We didn't have air conditioning, but we had heat.
but you could open that up.
Little bit. You'd kind of put the clipboard out to the window and hopefully get a little bit of air in. Those were good days.
Oh,
Those
goodness
were good days.
gracious.
But I was
It's-
warm.
Yeah, you were warm.
I got that, I was
Absolutely,
warm.
you were.
Yeah.
All right, listen, we do this thing called Focus, the Focus Technology Fast Five. We asked people
I'm a little nervous.
what they
by the
would
way, so
want
you know, I-
to ask
I saw
you.
this happening.
Yeah,
I got a little nervous.
I got to tell you, people had some ideas, but I had 5, and as it turns out, most of what they were asking, I was
good.
already going to ask,
Okay.
sort of in the same thing.
All right.
All right, so it's nothing you can't answer. This is the Focus Technology Fast 5. Focus Technology is your trusted IT partner for cybersecurity, cloud, and managed services. All right, so Pete, our engineer, is going to put 30 seconds on, and you
Ooh,
got to
we got
answer
like a
this in
clock
30
and everything.
Oh, yeah.
I better strap
Yeah.
myself in here.
Well, and then our producer, he gets a hook, grabs it around your neck. Only 3 people have got it to
Oh,
be pulled out,
all
so
right,
your odds are pretty
Okay, well,
good.
it's kicking. Here
All
we
right,
go.
here we go, Doug.
Yes.
First one, favorite watering hole.
Oh, well, Baxter's and Hyannis. I mean, of course. There's nothing better than sitting there watching the boats go by, and it's
There's a
summertime.
possibility I can answer these.
Yes, you probably could.
Do you prefer black and white or color photography?
It's a great question. It depends on what the mood I'm trying to send. So some things are actually more dramatic when it's black and white, especially when the sky isn't that good.
Yeah,
So I
absolutely.
guess
I like black and white because it makes me look younger.
Oh, well, okay. All right. This is hearing.
What are you gonna do? Favorite musical artist?
It's a cross between Elton John and Billy Joel. I mean, I always think about who do I have the most from.
Yeah.
It would be Elton John or Billy Joel.
Tell me the best movie quote ever.
The best movie quote ever.
Is.
Oh my gosh, that's terrible.
Uh-oh, I see the hook. You better hurry.
I feel the need for speed.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
I got nothing.
And last one, most impactful story that you've ever covered.
Oh, there's been so many of them.
I know.
From Mother Teresa.
It's such an unfair question, isn't it?
It is, but I'll tell you what. I did a story at Channel 5 where there was a young man that was walking around a track for 24 hours. It was, and he was raising money for drug awareness and drug addiction, and he was addicted to drugs. And running saved his life. And I'll never forget it. And it was in the middle of the night, and this guy was all by himself on that track. And that was his goal, was to raise awareness and money for drug addiction. And I said, oh my gosh, what a powerful moment this story of this guy is. And like I said, Bruce Willis on the red carpet and,
exactly.
or Tom Cruise or Mother Teresa or so many powerful stories. But I'll never forget that one man who had this singular story and was going around the track by himself. He didn't care if anybody even knew he was there.
Right.
He just something he had to do.
He had to do it.
He had to do it.
You know, I get asked that question so frequently, and I think people do think you're going to say, well, it was when I was, when I interviewed President so-and-so
Right.
or whatever, the case may be, and I've had those opportunities myself. But my most impactful, and I'll never forget this, was when I worked in Des Moines, and for the first time I was a young person, and the first Gulf War broke out.
Oh, sure.
And I got sent out to a base as troops were leaving. And it was the first time in my life at that stage of the game that I saw people who were making the ultimate sacrifice for the nation. And they were sending their young people off, and those young people were going.
And they were all volunteers.
And they did not know if they were going to come back.
Right. Right.
And I'll never forget it as long as I live, for all the things and all the people and all the stories, watching them send those people off and realizing they may not ever see them again.
And those are the people whose stories need to be told, because sure, everybody loves the limelight and the big stars and everything. But on a daily basis, it's the people who are our neighbors, the people that we see on a daily basis, the people that are riding on the buses or whatever. These are where the real stories are of who we are.
It's the truth.
Yeah.
It's the pumpkin farmer.
Yeah.
He's really got the real story.
Especially around Halloween.
Just right around there.
Very busy.
He is. He's a great guy. All right, so listen.
Did we pass? Did we make 30 seconds, by the way? Did that go
I don't think we did.
Oh, we didn't? Oh, okay. All right.
But fortunately, the hook did not come out.
Okay, all right.
Hey, so listen, we've got a great guest coming up.
Yes.
And I'm excited about this. Matt Light, of course, 3-time Super Bowl champ. That's crazy, isn't it? He is the dynasty.
Yeah, started with him and his teammates, right?
It absolutely did. And Matt is just a terrific guy. You and I both had the opportunity to interview him a few times, and he's got a foundation that he's had since 2001. Wow. They've raised $9 million. And he's got a big event coming up, and we just want to talk to him a little bit about that and, about football, and, of course, about this show on Apple Plus, The Dynasty, which is...
Getting a lot of buzz. A lot of buzz.
Is it ever? So Matt Light's coming up next. You're listening to Kerrigan & Company. My family and I love to go out for Sunday brunch, so I was really excited to find out that A&B Burger on Cabot Street in Beverly now has brunch on Sundays, and guess what? It's a jazz brunch. I've looked at the menu, and I've got my eye on that avocado Benedict with avocado slices, 2 poached eggs, hollandaise sauce, English muffin, and mixed potato hash. I already know that my husband's going to have the chicken and waffles. He always does. Plus, it's always fun to have a drink at brunch. I'll probably have a Bloody Mary, and somebody at my table will no doubt have a mimosa. Or we'll just wait to see what's on the menu. If you don't have plans this Sunday, then you know what to do. Get to A&B Burger on Cabot Street in Beverly for Sunday Jazz Brunch. Do you know what generative AI is and how your company can ensure employees are more productive? Focus Technology can help you master the use of Microsoft's newest tool, Copilot. This powerful tool can help your team speed up many of their daily tasks by enabling hands-on learning directly with the software. It can summarize long emails, generate drafts of long documents, and search for answers to key questions. Copilot represents a unique opportunity for businesses to accelerate their understanding of what generative AI can deliver for their company. Contact Focus Technology today to learn more at focustsi.com and bring your organization into the AI revolution. That's focustsi.com.
If you like rum, you're going to love Rumson's Rum, New England's most award-winning rum brand. Rumson creates distinctive and savory flavor profiles by hand-selecting and marrying the finest barrel-aged Caribbean rums. The spirits are then blended and finished in the New England Rum House. Choose from Rumson's Gold, Spiced, Grand Reserve, or Coffee Rum, which is smooth and sweet with a warm roasted coffee flavor, a hint of vanilla, and a decadent buttery finish. Find Rumson's at liquor stores or ask for it at your favorite restaurant. Learn more at rumsons.com. That's rumsons.com. Rumsons. Life lived, life enjoyed.
This segment of Kerrigan & Company is brought to you by Lucia Lighting and Design, where people in the know go for the best possible lighting and design experience. Hi, Matt.
Well, good morning.
Well, good morning. How are you, my friend?
Matt, what do you have? Like, what do you have, like at a farm, or you're going to have a big bonfire there? What's happening behind you there?
Yeah, I am coming to you from the heartland of America. We are about 30 minutes north of the camp that we run for the Light Foundation here in Greenville, Ohio.
Oh, wow.
And I just got done. It's been 5 days of taking down a barn. It's about 140 years old. So what you see behind me is a stack of what we call sleeper logs. And, we do a lot with kids, like with our programming. One of my favorite things that we do is our timber frame leadership camp. And we use material like you see behind me to create incredible works of art. Things like a tree house, a bell tower, a covered bridge. And, the thing that I love the most about it is that we get to give these kids a look at history, right? These were the pioneers, the earliest settlers who took virgin timbers and made their homes. And it's all mortise and tenon. It's all, done by an axe and chisels. And, I love the work we do. So,
so great. So cool. So for people who don't know, Matt is from Ohio. In fact, you're from that little town, right, Matt?
Yes, ma'am. They call them one-stop towns.
Hey, listen, you got an intersection and you love it, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, listen, I'm from Missouri, so I get it. I'm from out that direction. And Matt, I want to make sure this is Doug Meehan who's with us, right? Do you remember Doug and me? We've interviewed you a few times. Me over at Fox when I was at Fox here in Boston.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, I remember both of you, Doug. It goes back quite a few years, but it's amazing how much the landscape's changed. But really, it's still the same people doing the awesome work. You guys are still in it,
Matt. Except for my hair, it's grayer. It's a lot grayer.
That's wisdom.
Yeah, that's right.
It's wisdom.
Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Hey, the foundation, I got to tell you, it's just so phenomenal. I was saying to Doug that I did a little research before we got on, and you guys have raised $9 million since 2001. Is that right, for kids?
Yeah, I would say that, that number may be associated with just one of our fundraisers. The biggest thing that we do from a fundraising standpoint is our celebrity shootout. This will be year 20.
Wow.
And I'll tell you, we're blessed. We're blessed to have the support we have. You guys support a ton. Everybody in New England, I feel, they go out of their way to be, not just supportive, but give up their time, their resources. And we've been the beneficiary of that for so long. And, it's done a lot for the work we do with kids.
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
Matt, what is it? What was your connection and why you wanted to help kids the way that you do?
I honestly, Doug, I think the simple answer to that is I come from a family of educators. My mom taught, music for 35 years in the public school system. My father's a natural born educator, is a jack of all trades and a master of many. My sister homeschooled all 6 of her kids. I love seeing people succeed. I like to see young people try something different, get outside of their comfort zone and have success. And you have to encourage, I was encouraged a ton. So I think, again, long-winded now, the not short answer, but for me, it's just so many people poured into me. I wanted to be able to do that for others. And I have a family that is all in. So it was easy to do, what we did 22 years ago. And it just keeps getting better.
So tell us about the place where you are right now, Matt. That's some place that kids can come in the summer months. Is that how it works?
That's right. Yeah. So we have a camp that we call Chenoweth Trails. It's about 500 acres. We've got all kind of activities and things that kids can do there, from a nature center. We have yurts. We have a football field in the middle of the woods. We host all kind of different camps. About 7,500 kids annually come through Chenoweth Trails. So it's a mixture of different programs. We have our programs, things like our cultural leadership camp, things like our youth turkey hunts, our football camp, of course, that's an easy one. But everything falls under the Light Foundation leadership umbrella. We want to be able to, surround kids with people who have been very successful or are very good at what they do, share that knowledge, and then push them, to step outside their comfort zone and try something new. And so not only our programs, but we have a lot of partnership programs as well with other nonprofits in the area and beyond.
How much of that was instilled in you through football, Matt?
Doug, honestly, I look back on my football time, and I think for me, I had no understanding of what football could do for me. I didn't know you could get a scholarship to play in college. When they told me that, I thought, well, that's good timing, because my dad said that he wasn't going to pay for it. So that worked out pretty well.
You just happen to be really good too, Matt, by the way.
Well, hey, I don't think I was very good early on. I think I was just a big kid that didn't mind getting hurt every now and then and liked running through walls. But, the lessons that I learned in football, and definitely the lessons in college and my time in New England, it was all about accountability. It was all about hard work. It was about, showing up and getting outside your comfort zone. All the things that we try to instill in young people are the same things that made us successful as a team.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Matt, you were obviously part of the dynasty. And at my house, we're enjoying watching the documentary. We run up to the TV. Last night we were running up to the TV to point you out every time you would pop up on some of the video. Have you watched it, and what do you think?
I haven't watched it. I've heard a few people talk about it. It seems like there's a little controversy. It seems like there's a little bit of, nuggets into the past. But no, I don't know that I will watch it. Sometimes things that get done, you wonder what's the motive, what's behind it. And I guess if I find out that the motive behind that, documentary is a good one, maybe I will watch it, because it's nice to go back down memory lane. And listen, for me, it was always about the guys I played with. That's what was important, right? I mean, winning, of course. I mean, if you're going to run into a wall and have, Bill Belichick dog cuss you on a regular basis, you want to make it worthwhile, right? But the thing that was the most important was just those relationships. I mean, I played with some of the best. I mean, you're talking about the Kevin Falks and, the Logan Mankins, and I could go on for days, the Teddy Bruschi's. I mean, Mike Vrabel. I mean, all these guys, of course, this guy, number 12, who wasn't very good and, probably wasn't going to ever make anything of himself. But
I wonder what happened to him, by the way.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he'll never last long.
Right.
Matt, I'll tell you what, though, and I think I've shared this story with you before. As a kid that grew up here in New England, and they would sometimes we wouldn't be able to watch the New England games because there was not enough people in the stands where it wouldn't be on television. The idea that we could win a Super Bowl and then create this dynasty. It was all started with you and your team. And of course, we all remember the kick, we remember the win. But what I remember the most, and I've told you this before, not the most, but one of the things where I said, oh my gosh, we are that team now, was you walking off the plane in a bathrobe. You walked off the plane in a bathrobe. You came back. You got back in here to Foxborough, and I'm like, that guy is having the time of his life.
Hey, you're not wrong. You think about, it was such a crazy time in my life, and so many transitions, and a tough rookie year, and all the things that lead to winning a championship. And it's the one time that Bill isn't going to have you back, right after the game talking about, we may have won by 56 points, but if we ever do these 6 things again, we're not going to win a single game. It's like the one time you can let your hair down, and boy, did we ever. And those moments, look, not very often do you get to, repeat things like that. And, I was blessed. I got to play in 5 of them. Every one of them were unique. We had so many different guys that I look back and look, the 3 or the 2 that we didn't win, I remember sitting in that locker room going, man, and looking at a guy like Junior Seau saying, I wish I could give him one of those moments. He'd been there for so long, did it at such a high level, was such a great teammate. And so I guess having the perspective of winning and not winning. I tell kids all the time, I've won and lost every way you can possibly do it. Sure. Yep. So as much as I've won it, I know what it feels like to get real close and not be there.
Yeah. Talk to us a little bit about what you think about the fact that Coach Belichick is unemployed.
Yeah, kind of a shocker there. I didn't see that one coming. I think for me, I have to believe that it comes down to, he's got a place, he's got a system in mind, he has somewhere that he wants to be, and unless it's going to be that fit for him, it's not as if he has to just take another job. So, will we see him down the road? Yeah, I think so. Is he going to do something with football this season? I would guess so.
We're losing Matt in the middle of Ohio out there.
Yeah.
You weren't kidding with a one-stop town. You got one cell tower out there.
Matt, I just real quickly here, in case we do lose your signal, I want to just talk to you about the fact that you guys have Fool's Night, I believe it's called, coming up over at Encore. Lenny Clark was on the show a couple of weeks ago, talked about how much fun that event is. So tell everybody about it.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal night. Lenny and his brother Mike, they do so much for the foundation. And it just blows my mind. The very people, these comedians, I'm not sure people realize how hard they work, right? I'm sure you guys have seen it, and you've covered, a number of the different shows. And of course, Boston has so many elite comics, but these guys work their tail off. And then on top of all their schedule, they say, hey, what can we do for you and your foundation, right? And they show up, and it's guys like Corey Rodriguez, who is hilarious. It's Artie Januario. It's Tony V. It's this amazing cast. They go all out. We have the time of our lives. And then I'll sneak in a few videos of maybe a prank or something that we pulled on Coach Belichick or on Dante Scarnecchia. I think we're going to release one this year on Dante Scarnecchia that will be quite well received.
Just awesome. Just awesome.
Well, it's coming up over at Encore. It's actually at Memoir on March 21st. I think tickets are still available, right, Matt?
Yes, ma'am.
All
Yep.
right.
Go to mattlight72.com.
All right. Terrific.
Just great.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't come across a nicer guy.
No, you
Honest
cannot.
to goodness.
Matt Light, thank you very much. Appreciate your time, sir.
Matt, get out there and start throwing
thanks
those
for
logs around out there. You're all, look at, he's got the gloves, he's got the
gloves,
hoodie.
the whole bit.
Is there anybody more rugged than this guy? I don't know. It's awesome. Good
All
guys.
right, Matt, thanks so much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Such a great guy.
All right, everybody. You're listening to Kerrigan and Company. I have to tell you, folks, I think lighting in your home is one of the most important things that you can do to keep the house updated. And when I need new lighting, I head to Lucia Lighting and Design. Their spectacular 10,000 square foot showroom inside a beautiful mansion in Lynn, Massachusetts is decorated with both architectural and decorative lighting in every single style. From crystal and traditional to contemporary and modern, the selection is absolutely unmatched. Whenever I'm looking for new lighting, as I mentioned, I head to Lucia Lighting and Design. And when I'm not sure exactly what I'm looking for, I rely on the expert guidance of their design team. I know that they can help me. Learn more and book your appointment today. It's lucialighting.com.
Big Night Studios is now open for all content creators. Are you looking to start a podcast? Looking to expand your brand? Then visit bignightmedia.com. Check out our rates, check out the studio, and see all the podcasts we have to offer. That's bignightmedia.com.
This segment of Kerrigan and Company is brought to you by Great Point Wealth Advisors. If you're close to retirement and want a better plan for the future, connect with greatpointwealth.com today. That's Great Point Wealth. They can help. Welcome back, everybody, to Kerrigan and Company. And of course, our sponsor today is A&B Burger, and we're certainly appreciative of that. And keeping me company today is Doug Meehan, and it's been fun so far.
It has been great, Kim. This has really been a real joy.
Well, I'm looking forward to this next conversation. I don't know how much joy this will bring us, but I hope it brings us some information. Mm-hmm. Exactly. So joining us here is Dr. Daneshvar, and he is a Harvard professor, and it's great to see you.
Thanks for being.
Yeah, it's great to have you. You have a specialty in head injury.
That's right.
And March is Head Injury Awareness Month. We just chatted with Matt Light, a former football player who clearly, thank goodness, is perfectly fine. But he did mention some
Junior Seau. Yeah.
And I know he has had many players that he has known who have suffered through football head injury. And we just want to talk to you a little bit about this. We know that Boston is a place where there has been a lot of research associated with this. So maybe you could talk to us just about where we stand when it comes to brain injury.
So we've known for a couple decades that football players and people who get exposure to a lot of repeated traumatic brain injuries are at higher risks of dementia. So compared to the normal population, the general population, football players have about a 4 times higher rate of dementia. So we know this has been going on, but we haven't really gotten a good sense of why that is up until about 15 years ago when we started discovering this disease, specifically in the brains of people who got repeated traumatic brain injuries.
Mm-hmm. Are you seeing it outside of football as well?
Yeah. So your brain doesn't care what hits it. So if you're getting hit repetitively in the head, you are at risk of getting this brain disease. And so it's been found in people who play other sports like hockey. It's been found in military veterans who had exposures through military head impacts. It's been found in victims of domestic violence. It's even been found famously in the literature in a circus clown that was repetitively shot out of a cannon. So again, if you're getting this exposure to your head, you're at risk of having this disease.
And many times we just thought people had dementia and didn't realize. So CTE is what we're talking about, correct, Doctor? And can you tell me what CTE stands for? Because I've forgotten. Not because I've been hit in my head, but I've just forgotten.
So CTE stands for chronic traumatic encephalopathy.
Okay.
And it's a neurodegenerative disease that it's characterized by one of the same kinds of proteins that you find in Alzheimer's disease.
Okay.
But with CTE, it's in a different pattern and in different locations.
Why does it happen with some players and not with others when it seems that they would have probably experienced the same impact over the same course of time?
So the single and most well-described risk factor for developing CTE is the total amount of exposure to head impacts that you got over your life. And whether that's from football, whether it's from occupation or some other cause, that's the biggest risk factor. But you're right, there are some people who have a lot of exposure who seem to have relatively little or no issues, and some who have the same amount of exposure and have a lot of problems. And so we know that there are likely genetic factors that we've started to identify already and that are more out there that probably play a role in who ends up having the process and who doesn't.
What would be some of those factors when it comes to hereditary in genetics?
So the one that we've best described so far is a specific gene called ApoE, and if you have the E4 allele of that increases your risk likely of the severity of CTE, but it doesn't seem to increase your risk of having it. Really, pretty much everybody who develops this disease has some substantial exposure to head impacts, but the genetic factors look like they mostly influence how severe the disease gets. So it's in the same way that if you think about like smoking and lung cancer, we all know people who smoke like a chimney, and they don't end up having any problems, but other people do. And so it's probably a whole host of factors, including your genetics, environmental, other medical comorbidities that increase your risk.
One of the frightening things about CTE is that it, up to a certain point, I don't know, maybe this has changed at this point, but it's hard to detect, couldn't detect it, and a lot of times people have to die before, and a brain has to actually be looked at to really diagnose.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. At this point, CTE can only be diagnosed after someone passes away, but that's actually not that different than other neurodegenerative diseases. For example, if one of our loved ones gets diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease, we're actually not diagnosing it for sure with Alzheimer's until we look at the brain after someone passes away. So we don't know for sure what process is going on with a lot of neurodegenerative diseases. CTE is different, though, in that we haven't been able to come up with great diagnostic criteria in life yet, but I think we're really close.
How about when it involves youth and youth sports, and the kids' brains are still growing and developing as compared to, say, somebody that's in the NFL who's a grown man? How does that apply to understanding how this affects young people?
Yeah, so interestingly enough, when people who start playing younger, they end up reporting more symptoms later in life and worse symptoms later in life than people who didn't start as young, when you adjust for how long they played in total. But the interesting thing, when you look at their pathology in their brain after some of these people pass away, there isn't that much of a difference. And so the thought process is your brain is developing early on. If you're getting hit in the head repetitively, you might be interfering with your brain's development. And so you might not change the actual pathology in the brain, but your brain might be less capable of routing around that pathology, of adjusting for it. And that's why you end up seeing more severe and earlier symptoms.
So do you think that people are heeding this knowledge and starting to maybe be more cautious with youth? Because obviously, this is where we really have to start addressing this, is with young people. Do you think the word is getting out?
I think the word is definitely getting out compared to where it was 15 years ago when I started doing this work. But one of the most notable changes we've made hasn't been at the youth level, it's been at the professional level.
Right.
People are paying attention at the pro level. The professional athletes are hitting less in contact. They're being penalized for hits to the head that are unnecessary. But some of that's trickled down to college level, less to the high school, and even less at the youth level. We're seeing, unfortunately, not a lot of those same changes that the pros understand and the pros are making. We're not seeing all those same changes at the youth level.
Yeah, that's scary. Doctor, knowing what you know, would you allow your kids to play some of these sports that would be so dangerous?
Yeah, so I played football for a couple of years in youth and a couple of years in high school. I wrestled in youth, high school, and college. And so I had these exposures to repetitive head impacts. I think when we're talking about the kids' sports, we need to minimize the total exposure these kids are getting to head impacts. So if you ask most NFL players, you ask them about youth football and whether that made them a better professional athlete, most of them would say playing as a 7-year-old didn't fundamentally change my love of the game or my skill level in the game. If we can eliminate those youth exposures, so for my kid, I wouldn't let him play contact sports up until the age of high school. Right? That seems like it's pretty common sense. You can do non-contact sports, including football, and still get that same experience.
When people think of this disease, they mostly think of men and guys. But there are women out there that are in contact sports, whether it be soccer or lacrosse. Is there a great understanding what it's been like for them? I mean, we happen to think maybe just NFL and guys, but for the girls and the women that are out there.
Yeah. So again, your brain doesn't really care what hits it And we're finding cases of CTE in women with lots of exposure to repetitive head impacts. Now, one of the reasons that we've talked about CTE more in men than women is in part because there's so many more male football players in this country. So many more men have had opportunities to have long careers. But when you think about some of the changes that have been good, like Title IX, other changes that have allowed women to participate in sports, and that the proliferation of professional sports leagues for women, you're now starting to see a new group of women who've had longer exposures to head impacts. And on the one hand, that's great. But on the other hand, that means that in 10, 20, 30 years, we might see more rates of CTE.
And my final question for you, Doctor, is we've talked about, the things that are happening, but what are the symptoms and the varying symptoms? Because you've said that some people are much more severe than others. And we know Junior Seau, for example, we know how dramatic it was in him, so much so that, ultimately I think he killed himself as a result of it. But what are the symptoms and how severe can they get?
Yeah. So the most closely tied symptom to CTE pathology has been cognitive symptoms. So that's changes in like memory, thinking, ability to make decisions. But what we also tend to see in individuals with CTE at really high rates are changes in your ability to control your mood. So we call it emotional ability, like flying off the handle, more commonly than not. We also see depression at really high rates in people with CTE. Now, when it comes to things like suicidality, suicidality is this complex and multifaceted issue, and we can't say for sure whether the action that any particular person makes is related to some pathology in their brain.
Mm-hmm.
Some of those symptoms you mentioned also reflect what it is for people just to get old. They kind of change as it is.
Sure.
How can somebody determine, well, gee, maybe this is something that affected me when I was playing football or when I was playing youth sports, as opposed to
just age.
Getting old and getting cranky. I mean,
Yeah, you've hit the nail on the head. I mean, these symptoms don't start showing up until decades after someone played, and that's why it's been hard to figure out this relationship for so many years. But really, when these symptoms become so substantial that they're interfering with your ability to, carry out your daily activities, you need to start making lists. That's when it's worth getting checked out. And the most important thing is that these symptoms are treatable. We see these patients in the clinic. I take care of them. And when we see them, they get better. So the idea that there might be some problems in your brain doesn't mean that it's a death sentence or something that can't be treated. It's important to get checked out by a neurologist or brain injury doctor that specializes in taking care of these patients.
I don't think I realized that. I didn't realize that maybe you could treat. I know you can't cure it at this, and you can't definitively diagnose it, but you can treat the symptoms, you're saying.
Yeah, so we can take a lot of the information we have from other neurodegenerative disease processes like Alzheimer's, like Parkinson's, and apply some of those same treatments, interventions to people who have CTE. So putting aside medications, which there's a whole bunch of medications that would help, there are also other factors that are probably the best interventions for this. So for example, if I had a pill for Parkinson's disease that was as good as diet and exercise changes, that'd be $1 billion pill. But those aren't exciting, and so people don't tend to focus on that. But really, making sure that you're getting good and restorative sleep, making sure your blood pressure is well controlled, making sure your blood sugars are well controlled. All of those things end up adding up and making and improving people's long-term trajectory.
Remarkable. Wow.
Doctor, this has been fascinating. It really has. And I'm thrilled to know that we've come away, pretty long way since 15 years ago when we first all started to talk about this. So I'm so glad that you could come in and share some of that with us.
And thank you for the work that you're doing.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, it's been my pleasure, and we still have more work to do, though.
That's it. All right, Doctor, thank you. You're listening to Kerrigan and Company. Is your life getting more complex? Maybe jobs are changing, you're nearing retirement, shifting family dynamic, uncertainty about your financial future. It may be the right time to contact our sponsor, Great Point Wealth Advisors, for holistic planning and advice. Great Point Wealth Advisors is a registered investment advisory firm with offices in Boston and Danvers, Massachusetts. Listen to their short-form podcast, Great Points, on most streaming platforms, or contact them at greatpointwealth.com. That's greatpointwealth.com. All right, everybody, welcome back one final time to Kerrigan and Company today, brought to us by A&B Burger.
Fascinating. Learning so much about CTE, brain injury, and the doctor was just terrific.
I got to tell you, in the 15 years that they have been studying this and they've identified it, they've come a long, long way. I mean, it was a death sentence 15 years ago when some of these guys found out that they had it. And I couldn't be more thrilled to know that they can treat these symptoms and that they can make a better life for these individuals. But, you know, the whole idea behind it, Doug, is awareness. I mean,
Sure. And it's not just athletes. It's people in the military and people that are going to be dealing with these things that they can't get away from, whether it's concussions, around explosions and whatnot, and the development moving forward on how you teach kids sports.
I loved your question about women because you're so right. I don't know a lot of women, or I don't know that I've ever heard of a woman having it. But having said that,
they must.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And women are now stepping into that time period.
We have professional hockey for women right now, and basketball that's, of course, been around forever now, and soccer and all these other, mainstream sports that it's not just for the boys anymore.
It's not just for the boys.
No.
Hey, I'm so glad you could come over.
Kim, I got to tell you, it's been a great joy to spend some time with you again. I mean, it's just awesome. It's a wonderful walk down memory lane, and it's really kind of great to circle back to what's happening in our worlds right now. And I'm grateful you had me.
Well, I have to tell everyone that Doug came in, and my daughter is here, and she's 22. And Doug said, "Hi, I haven't met you."
I met her.
Seen her for a while.
She was about this tall when I met her last. And,
exactly.
You got two great kids that are off doing their thing too, which is awesome.
Yeah, thank you very much for saying that. But time does go by. But I'm so glad that we keep these friendships.
This time went by fast too.
It did.
Thanks for having me.
It did.
Just great.
Thanks, and you stay well, my friend.
Knock on wood.
You bet. All right. Thanks for joining us today here on Kerrigan and Company. Thanks, everybody, for listening to Kerrigan and Company. To find out who will keep me company and be my co-host on the next episode, be sure you follow us on Instagram, Facebook, X, and TikTok. Kerrigan and Company is recorded at the Big Night Studios at the TD Garden in Boston. You can view the podcast on YouTube and listen to it wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure you tell a friend. The executive producer of Kerrigan and Company is David Thompson. Our engineer is Peter Hurley, and our social media managers are Grace Kerrigan, Colby Thompson, and Riley Thompson. See you next time.
Yes, Kerrigan and Company, yeah.